All right. Well, welcome back, guys. This is East Coast Adventures. I'm David.
And I'm Matt.
We've got a special guest here today, Josh Laker. He ran the dirt circuit. Matt, if you want to talk a little bit about what Josh did at dirt circuit.
Well, Josh came up to the dirt circuit in Morristown at Panther Creek State Park, and I think he had a pretty big goal of 130 in
Yep.
24 hours, and he came very close to reaching that goal. I think it was 121.8, something around there. So he had a very good performance and actually broke the course record and
Yes.
won it.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Josh actually finished first place overall for the 24-hour.
Yep.
Got a belt buckle, set the course record. And, Josh is someone who's a pretty distinguished runner. He's done multiple backyard ultras. He's actually won, 2 backyard ultras now?
Yes.
Yeah, so Kentucky last sole standing and Ohio Backyard Ultra.
Yep.
The Ohio Backyard Ultra, he recently won. That was this year. But you're also a running coach too, correct?
I am. Yeah, I've been coaching since 2016, like officially, I guess.
Cool. That's awesome. Well, I tell you what, if you don't mind, let's talk just a little bit about the dirt circuit and your training leading up to that. If you want to tell us a little bit about that, and also, how dirt circuit went, because one of the things, guys, that you didn't see, like when you look at Josh's stats, is also his crew chief.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She is absolutely amazing. So between them, they're just a force to be reckoned with. So I'll let Josh talk just a little bit about training and the race, and then we'll ask him some questions.
Yeah, I mean, I have to start with her, like Jess being, being my crew, my wife being my crew. She's been at 3, 4 backyard ultras with me, and so this is my first 24-hour race. But she just dials it in. She knows, the expectations that I have, and so she kind of just knows what to do when I'm there to get me in and get me out, or we may battle back and forth on a few things here and there, but she always wins during a race because she knows what to do. But the race went really well for me. Training leading up to the race, I always like to give myself, no matter where I am, like with my base, I like to give myself a good 4 months to train for any race. I'm not a heavy racer. Maybe two races a year is what I do. So I did OBU in March and recovered from that. Typically don't train during the summer because it's just hot and I don't do well with it. The goal when I started this year was ultimately to get into bigs, and I was hoping to go far enough at Ohio's Backyard Ultra to do that. Unfortunately, I didn't get far enough. 220, if you think about it.
I truly believe you're going to be there soon.
Yeah, it's. I hope so, but it's hard to believe that 220, isn't enough. It's crazy if you think about that. But so it's not, and it wasn't in the cards for 2023. Initially, had planned to do dirt circuit as the build up to bigs in this month. But then I just made it my A race when I found out I wasn't going to get into big. So it's the first time I've done a 24-hour race. Did 100, point to point 100 milers, done the OBU or done the backyard races. And to me, this is kind of a mix in between those two styles. Ohio's Backyard Ultra or Backyard Ultras, it's really all about minimizing effort and damage and slowing yourself down. Whereas opposed to a 24-hour race, it's ending in only 24 hours. And if you have a goal like I did coming into it, you get to push, you have to push the whole time.
So did that change your training block then? You said you do 4 months, and I know you were planning on bigs, but did you train differently knowing that you weren't going to get that break every hour?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, the first, I guess it would be almost 3 months or maybe 2.5 months would have probably been the same, right? Do a high-end intensity block really far away from any kind of ultra if you have time. And then as you get closer, you start doing more specific type training. And that's where the rubber meets the road. That's where if your race is a backyard ultra, it's going to look different than if your race is a mountainous 100 miler. It's going to look different if it's a, I wouldn't call your race flat by any means, but fairly flat, 24-hour race.
Well, it's definitely a faster course, though. That's one of the
Yeah.
things we were talking about when we took this race over. It's definitely a PR trail race,
Yeah.
just because there's not a lot of elevation. But I mean, you look so fresh coming in every lap. Me and Matt were actually talking about this earlier because Jess, she was like a full-fledged pit crew when you would come in, and like Matt said, when he would see you leave, like there was no walking. Like you ran right out of the tent and got back at it, but it was like your regimen to go in that tent. She was taking care of you. You were taking your nutrition, and then boom, you were out. So in that way, you did kind of treat it like a backyard ultra, but you just didn't take a very long break, and you were just like
exactly
rolling right back out.
How long was those breaks in between each lap?
Probably on average. I mean, I did have some longer breaks later on because my nutrition plan had to change. But early on, like less than 2 minutes. Like I was literally getting in, like lubing up, changing out a water bottle. I did take my shoes and socks off and clean the feet and re-lube the feet one time. I used the Theragun here or there, but it was less than 2 minutes almost every time during the day.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking because I was trying to be out there when everybody came in, and then when you hopped in the tent, it was like in there for maybe a minute, maybe two, and then you just pop right back out. And then I did see, I think, fix your feet up one time, and it was a little longer, but I think for the most part, you're right on 1 or 2 minutes.
Well, and we also noticed that like you didn't take very much nutrition at all from the actual aid station. Like you had brought everything yourself. So is that something you typically do? Do you have like a specific nutrition block you're following for races, or is it the same thing you're using when training? Like, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, typically, I mean, for backyards, and then this is again that kind of in between where like really you should be self-sufficient, like using what's on the race course you can. But I've trained with Tailwind. Tailwind typically does really good for me for most races, and then I also like had Scratch bars and Honey Stinger waffles, and that was my main plan as well as like we had real food in the tent. Like we brought cooked chicken. We make these oat bars that we take to every race, bananas, and then the normal kind of flair of chips, pickles, things like that. Bacon, always have to have bacon.
Oh yeah, bacon's a staple.
So you're saying that like you shouldn't try something new on race day?
No, that's unless the conditions force your hand, which I've been there. Like when I did OBU, my nutrition went horribly wrong early, and we tried all kinds of things. But luckily, I didn't have that problem here. My nutrition didn't go to plan totally, but we were able to course correct with some of the things that we had in the tent.
Yeah.
Well, you look solid all day. I mean, if you would have had stomach problems, I would have never have noticed because like every lap was coming in, and I don't know if you knew, but like by the middle of the day, people were coming up and they're like, "This guy's killing it, the guy with the mustache," and then all of a sudden, the guy with the mustache, his nickname became Prefontaine,
Yeah.
and then you became Pre, and it was just funny because like everybody at that point, like you had passed them so many times, they were learning who you were, and that was what was kind of cool. I mean, you got 100 people you're running around, and most of them knew who you were at that point.
Oh yeah.
Well, what was really cool about it too is like every time that I would pass somebody or pass them again, it was always great things to say to each other. So that was really cool. It's uplifting to hear a bunch of good things. And every time I would pass Micah, he would always give me a bunch of crap about, oh, here's the second time, oh, here's the third time, So it was always a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So did you have any low moments?
Yeah. So I did have some stomach issues. It didn't get terribly hot, but it did get hot, if that makes any sense for a runner, especially when you're pushing.
So when you're running the pace you were, yeah, it makes sense.
So I did. I brought arm sleeves, and I was putting ice in my arm sleeves probably for 3 hours in the middle of the day there. And nutrition did well during the heat, but then right after it started to cool off, my stomach kind of turned over a little bit. My mouth I couldn't eat any like dry foods. It turned into the Sahara Desert. So even like the Stinger waffles, I couldn't take a little bite, and it was like I was choking on the dust.
You get to that point you can't chew.
Yeah. So we made a change from taking, because I would take Tailwind one loop, and then I would take something solid with me the next loop, and I couldn't take something solid with me anymore. So we went straight to ramen the rest of the day and the night, and so that's what made me spend a little bit more time in the tent, because I haven't really found a way to carry ramen on the run yet.
Ziploc bag, baby.
Yeah, put it in your bottle. Back.
Yeah,
Well,
I did.
it looks like it must have worked though, because I mean, you were able to keep food in to keep running. I mean, you didn't
Yeah.
look like you were getting too weak out there.
No, I never probably got below, I mean, we were always in a calorie deficit in any ultra, but it never got to the point to where I didn't have enough carbohydrates for sure. I never felt like I was hitting a low. I think mentally, I made some choices when right before it got dark and then during the night that I regret a little bit, especially after seeing how well I ran the last 2.5 hours.
Yeah, you killed that last lap.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
was your average lap times?
So I was basing everything off of pace. So I wasn't really tracking my times per se. So 11-minute mile was my goal for the overall pace for the entire race. That would have got me just over 1:30. And I came into hour 14 with like a 10:45 average, and then it just started to slip little by little. When the night fell.
And that was just probably mostly due to waiting on the ramen, trying to figure out how to.
Yeah,
take
and
it.
I did have some conversations during with myself during the run, like I should, because you're still making that decision, like, am I pushing too hard? Am I going to blow up? Am I going to make it 24 hours? And so mentally, I was struggling with the idea: do I need to slow down, or do I keep pushing? And I think I did. I made the decision to slow down a little bit, probably hour 15, 16, 17, something like that. And when in hindsight now, I could have probably kept pushing.
Did you take any kind of caffeine to,
Yeah.
boost you up, or okay?
Yeah,
What was that
and
like?
I started the morning without as much coffee as I normally do, and I had the same problem at OBU, and so I had a headache right from the beginning. But I took a little bit of caffeine in the form of like jelly beans, and that did the trick. And then I didn't take it again until probably close to midnight, around that time. And at that point, we take tablets, caffeine tablets. And I mean, it's like jet fuel. Like after 30 minutes, you feel it kick in, and like it's amazing. So
that is something I definitely used at the Georgia Jewel. A lot of them. They worked great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like you and Jess definitely have the routine down, and I mean, I think the backyard ultras have helped with that, because I mean, you've set a course record that's probably going to be hard for most people to beat. So I think that course record's going to stay at the dirt circuit for a while.
When did you realize that you weren't exactly going to make it to the 1:30? Was it early in the night?
Yeah, hour 17. So that would have been what, 7, 8, 9, 10. No, I guess that would have been like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, right? 9 or 10 at night. And I felt my laps started slipping. Like I could see what my average lap was. I would hit my lap button on the watch every loop. And so I was starting to hit like 11:30s, 11:40 for the average lap. And I was definitely stressing about it. Jess was doing her best to not keep me from thinking about my times and just run. But when you're running 2.9 mile laps, like that's really all you can kind of pay attention to.
Yeah, real quick if your pace is falling off.
Oh yeah. Hitting certain mile mark or land markers, and you're like, I haven't made it here in this time.
Yeah,
you're dropping back.
Yeah.
So now, how long have you been coaching?
I, as guess Jason Coop would say, I put up my shingle in 2016. I started coaching in 2016, which, I formally was educated. I have some, some school education, but my coaching education was USATF track and field, USA track and field level 1 in 2014, I think it was, and then I, officially started coaching as a business in 2016.
So did you start coaching because you were already a runner,
Oh
or
yeah,
how did you?
yeah. So
So
I
how long have you
got
been?
running. So I grew up running, like in high school. Well, no, not in high school, but like in junior high and all that. I did track and cross country. I played basketball mostly in high school, and then I joined the military right out of high school, and I'm in the Coast Guard, and moved to Hawaii. And like my story of how I got back into running was I was visiting my brother who,
100.
what's that?
I said, I hope you're telling me you're running the Hurt 100.
No, no, no. At that point, I see. I took it slow. I started running half marathons and marathons at that time. But I was sitting across from the table at a burger joint, and someone was telling me how they just finished a marathon, and they gave me that stat like less than 1% of the U.S. population finished a marathon, and that really just lit a fire. And I started running, hired a coach for my first marathon training plan, completed that. It was the North Shore Marathon in Hawaii. And then
Oh, that's
really,
cool.
yeah, it was cool. It literally ran along the coast and then ran all the way back to where you started. So it was a neat race. But I really got into like the idea behind running, how to get better, and got my bachelor's in exercise science, and then got my master's in human performance, and then really like just kept trying to learn about running and exercise science and how to get better.
So do you coach all runners, or do you coach ultra runners or marathoners, or do you just
Yeah,
coach anybody that wants to?
yeah. I mean, I coach all types of runners, all ability levels. I'm coaching someone who's training for a 10K right now, marathon, all the way up to the ultra distances. But my niche
Yeah.
is ultra marathons. Like that's who I speak to when I talk on social media. But I think I definitely have the ability to coach all levels of runners. But um, ultra marathon is my niche for sure.
So when did you start the kids cross country coaching? How did that come about?
So we can blame Jess for that. She's really been my catalyst to do things. So been in the military, still in the military, moved around 9 times in 22 years, and we live in Prospect, Kentucky now. And I'm done. We're not moving again. Finally get the feeling of like putting down roots,
Yeah.
and moving every 3 or 4 years, you don't really feel like you can be part of a community, but I definitely feel like we are here, and that's a lot because of she doesn't let me say no. And so our kids were on the cross country team for the elementary school, and we were like assisting coaching. And then word got out of kind of that I like to run, and then I do some coaching. And next year I was the head coach. So
That's how it works.
Do they
Yeah.
call
yeah,
you Coach Pre?
no, actually they called me the first year. They called me Coach Jazzy J.
Oh,
Just yeah. And this
Oh, man.
this mustache isn't a thing that I keep year round. It's something that I grew out for. I started doing it last year for the cross country season, and then twice during the cross country season, I dye it this color. I dye it blue for two key races, and so I'll dye it again next weekend for the state meet, and then I'll shave it all off.
Oh wow. Do they
Yeah,
know who Steve Prefontaine is?
no, probably not. Definitely,
Oh,
probably
you
not.
got you got
Yeah,
to tell them. You got to tell them who that was.
that should be like part of cross country running
It
and
should
anything.
be.
You have to start with that movie.
Yep.
yeah,
Both
for
of them.
sure.
Play all three of them back to back.
Maybe even sprinkle some McFarland in there.
Oh yeah.
Make them watch that.
Yeah, that is a good one.
So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit. Let's back up then, and let's talk a little bit about we've went through dirt circuit.
Hmm.
Uh, And you said your goal is to get to bigs, which I think that's you're going to be your goal for next year, right? Like you want to go to bigs.
I mean, I
Is that
do want to
next
go to bigs. Yeah, 2024 is the individual. No, it's the team championship. So a win at OBU gets you in regardless. It's a silver ticket race.
Yeah.
A win at Capital Backyard gets you in regardless. But it's such a logistical challenge. We have 4 boys here, and planning to go to a race and telling and setting all the things in place, saying I might not be back Wednesday, I might not be back there. It's tough, and it
I
adds a
understand
toll.
that.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I do. Biggs is still Jess probably won't let me let it go. She, it would be great to go back to OBU and defend my crown. You guys got me intrigued about that the Conquer race
Oh
in
yeah.
late January.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure what the future holds when it comes to racing, but it's still a goal to get to OBU. I mean, not OBU, but Bigs. So we'll see. It's still up in the air. Right now,
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
would.
having fun, enjoying running without a focus.
Well, I think definitely you should not give up on it because I mean you've put too much time and effort into the backyard
Yeah.
ultras. I mean, Ohio this year you finished with what two? Me
Yeah.
and Matt were talking about this earlier. I couldn't remember.
It was
220, 230.
53 yards. 53 yards, so like 222, something, low
Yeah.
220s.
I think it was 222 when I was looking at it.
So were you, just like in that race, which it was extremely cold. I've never,
Yeah.
so I ran this race too. I was there with Josh, and this is by far the coldest weather I've ever ran in my life. Uh, how did you deal with that? Because I didn't. Like I could not stay warm. I was in blankets. I was wrapped up in wrapped around a gas fire pit with a blanket. Just like all around it, trying to stay warm. And I mean, by the time the morning got there, I had just depleted everything just from all the shivering and trying to get warm. And I just never worked out for me. But you seem to manage it really well. I don't know if you're used to the cold weather or you had a strategy. I obviously didn't have a good strategy because it didn't work for me. I was
Yeah.
gone after 100 something miles, so.
Yeah, I like running in the cold. Like I'll go out when it's any temperature, as long as I have the right gear. It's not a problem for me in the cold. If it's hot, I hate it. But when it's cold, I'm okay with it. And one of my philosophies when it comes to backyard ultras is take everything you own, and that's what we do. Like I took all of my running gear because I would hate to be out there, especially with the goal of winning it or going as far, as you can, and get knocked out because you don't have the right gear. So I think it was below 20 both those nights, and I was in tights, shorts, all the things, triple layer shirts, double gloves, face mask, beanie. So I had all the gear. The hard part was the 10 minutes in between the loops when you just got so cold.
Yeah, I would be sweating so bad coming into the end of that lap. That 10 minutes, I just froze to death. So by the time I started the next lap, you're just over there just jackhammering because you're
Yeah.
so cold.
Yeah, it was a challenge. The nipples on the bottles froze. Any kind of like Larabars was a fuel I was eating, but they were rock solid. So really had to find something that worked that you could take on the run with you. So that was a challenge.
Yeah, I felt sorry for Kyle Calvis. He was there and his water jugs froze. So he couldn't even make water at that point, and I was like, we were trying to help him figure out how to get it melted. But I mean, it was ridiculous. I think with the windshield, it was 13 degrees that night.
Yeah, that's nuts.
And then we got the surprise of the guy in the chaps. Remember that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, that was. I mean, it's always good to have stuff like that.
There was a guy. We're on the road section, and there's literally a guy completely naked, and the only thing he's wearing was chaps, and he had string lights wrapped around him, and he was out there dancing.
No, wow.
This was like what, midnight?
Yeah, it was late for sure. It was a great time. It was a great pick me up for all the runs.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah, but what was bad, we were all so tired. nobody talked about it. We all just laughed and we kept running, and no one said a word.
Wow.
Well, I mean, that race turned out well for you. So you were 220 miles. I didn't see who finished with you. So who was the last person with you that was going the whole time?
Dave. Oh man, his last name escapes me now. I can't remember what his last name is, but his first name's Dave. Matter of fact, he just got done right after he was using OBU as a way to train for like a
I
cross country run.
last, but
Oh wow.
Kwiatkowski? That it? Dave
Yeah,
Kwiatkowski?
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a great guy to talk to and run with. Him and his dad was running the race together. His dad bowed out a little bit earlier, but yeah, he was using that race to do a run from like San Francisco to Florida or somewhere on the
Wow.
East Coast.
That's a very long
Yeah,
run.
so he definitely got the assist with you, and then it looks like Kentucky Last Soul Standing. So that's where I actually met Josh at. That was, I think, both of our very first backyard ultras.
Yeah.
So I think that's a Will Rivera puts on that race.
He does. From Running Souls out of E-Town. Yep.
Yeah. But that was a really well put on race. But Josh won it too. So that's 2 backyards, and then you went to Bob's.
Yeah.
How did that one? Was that so you got like 2 really good backyards, and then you had Bob's. So was it the heat?
No.
Like, did you do the opposite, or was it just a bad day?
No, I came into it with some kind of stomach bug. It was like it was going around the whole cross country team. The parents were getting it, and it was like this weird 10-day bug. Like I wasn't sick to my stomach, but I was having like digestive issues, and it was just not going well. And I felt like I was running with a bowling ball in my stomach almost the whole race. And then every lap, I was spending time in the porta-john, and so it did not go well.
Yeah, and that race is usually hot too, so that probably didn't help.
Yeah, it got really hot. Yeah.
Well, it looks like you've got some pretty accomplished races behind you. I mean, just looking through your list, you were first place at the dirt circuit, first place at Ohio's Backyard, second place the year before at Ohio's Backyard. So you were the assist. Kentucky Last Soul Standing, first place. Georgia Death Race, looks like you were 16th overall. That's a pretty hard race. I mean, it's definitely got some elevation. So that's a pretty good time. Indiana Trail 100, 6th place. Breaks 45 miler, 6th place. Shawnee, first place. I mean, you've definitely got some races behind you. The Yeti 100, 2nd place, 17 hours.
Back to that. I'm going back to that race.
Are you going back to Yeti?
Yeah, I want to run. I want to run sub. I don't know if it's possible, sub 16, but it's kind of a goal of mine.
Well, let's see. You ran Yeti in 2018. I mean, you've probably came a long way since then. So I would say that's pretty doable. If you need some crew guys, just let us know. We're not Jess, but we'll try.
Yeah, we're good at the running part. We can run with you. That's good.
Yeah.
If you need pacers, there we go. We'll split it up with you. Keep you moving at
Absolutely.
night.
Let's go.
So what's the goal in 2024 then? Like, so you're kind of on the fence with Biggs, but do you have an A race already picked out? Like, what are you leaning towards?
Yeah, I have ideas. I don't have any races yet. So, I mean, Biggs is one of those goals. Running a fast 100 miler is still something. A faster 100 miler is still something that I want to do. And then now, seeing the one, feeling what the 122 was in 24 hours. The 24-hour endurance team, it's a ways away. Like 145 is the qualifier. I think 153 or 55 is the 5th place runner on that team right now. So I don't know. It might kind of intrigues me to see if I can't go for a distance like that in 24 hours.
Yeah, that's definitely something I've been looking at myself, is the 24-hour track race, but I'm really drawn to the Southern States 200.
Oh yeah,
so
that does look cool.
I think I'm going to run that. for 2024. I think that's
Yeah.
going to be my goal. But the track race is definitely something I've been interested in too. But I mean, what you did at Dirt Circuit, I mean, that would apply to a track pretty easily.
Oh yeah.
With the pace you were already running. I mean, the difference is, just as well as I do with a track, you've got that constant lean and you're on asphalt the whole time, or, some type of composite track.
And it's the same motion over and over and over. It's not
biomechanically. Yep.
Like a trail, you're hiking a little bit down hills and stuff, but on that track, it's the same repetitive motion over and over. And it was tough when I did my 100 there. It wasn't fun.
Yeah, when I went into Yeti, that was one of my biggest concerns was because that same year I did MMT, Massanutten, which is completely different than Yeti. And I was worried about biomechanically breaking down way sooner because you don't get to change your gait. It's all running, it's all on rails to trails. There's not much walking, there's not much changing of your gait, missing routes or anything like that.
Yep.
Yeah, and you feel that race for days.
Oh yeah,
when it's like that. I mean, it's something that it's a different type of hurt for sure.
Well, like I can go do a fast 50K, and it doesn't hurt that. It hurts, but it doesn't hurt that bad. But then when I get done with the marathon, it's like I can barely walk for 3 days. It's like it's crazy, the difference that you feel.
So I want to ask you a couple questions real quick. Especially for some of the people that's listening, because some of the crew that's listening to this are newer runners that's listening to our podcast. So like take Micah for instance. You got to spend a lot of hours with Micah, and for Micah to go from 40 miles to 90 miles, and let's say like that's your athlete, what advice could you give someone that's trying to get into ultras or get into their first 12 or 24-hour race? Like, that's some of the questions we get asked is like, what type of training should I do? Or, how do I keep running? That's some of the questions we get too is like, if I'm doing a 12-hour race or I'm doing a 24-hour race, I usually, at some point, I can only, the last half of it or the last third of it, I'm walking.
Yeah.
What advice or training, I mean, what kind of tips would you give these newer runners that's getting into this? Even like Micah did an amazing job, but Micah walked a lot, and like for that transition to start happening into running longer and longer, what advice do you have for the listeners?
Yeah, I mean, so first off, I would say to anyone who hasn't done an ultra, you can do one. Like I truly believe that there's everybody in this world can do an ultra, right? It's about proper training and leading up to a race. But without a doubt, anyone in this world can do an ultra marathon. So the thoughts that go through a bunch of people's heads that I can't do that, I think is a total fallacy. And with proper training, you can.
Yeah.
The training leading up to it, it's about doing it smartly. It's about giving yourself plenty of time to build up to whatever race you're talking about. If you're going from I've trained someone from a marathon directly to 100 miles before, right? But we've done that. Obviously he ran a 50K and a 50 miler during training, but he didn't do any races before that. But we had time. We had plenty of time to build up the training properly, do it slowly. I love to run, right? That's why I coach. That's why I'm involved in it. And I want, to train myself in a way that promotes longevity so I can continue to do this for as long as I want to. And that's one of my philosophies with coaching is that I train my athletes in the same manner. Yes, we can achieve these or strive to achieve these really high goals, but we're going to do it in a way that's smart. It's going to keep you running. We're not just going to beat our heads against the wall, get you through the race, and then you're going to be injured. I want you coming back, after you're recovered and able to train some more with a lot more base behind you.
No, that's great advice.
That's good.
I would assume that training is probably applies to all your runners, but like ultra runners, you're probably working more on endurance, whereas like your cross country team, you're probably focused on speed. So do you break that down differently with them and how you apply those techniques?
Yeah, I mean the cross country runners are completely different because it's K through 5. Regardless of what some of the
Wild
parents
bunch.
think. But yeah, regardless of what their parents think, like they're there to have fun. I'm there to foster their love for running. We're not making superstar athletes in elementary school. Okay,
Yeah.
so um, I want them. We have 93 kids on the team, and I want every
Wow.
single one of them to choose to continue to run on their own. Right? Not, some of them are there because their parents want them there, and you can quickly tell who that is. But I've converted a lot of runners who've been told to go to cross country to now I want to, because
Yeah.
it's about having fun with them. It's about, we're going to put in work, we're going to do hard stuff, but you also have to make sure that they're having fun when they do it. So that's completely different for that group. For ultra runners, we still want to have fun when we do it. If we're not having fun, we're probably doing something wrong. But let's be honest, right? In a 4-month, 6-month training block, there's going to be periods where it's just going to suck. You're not going to
Yeah.
want to go run. I do a lot of my training solo, and that's okay for me. But for some people, it's really hard.
Yeah, that's about how we do our training. Most of it's solo, and then we try to get maybe once a week. We try to like a couple of us get together and actually go
Yeah,
do a run together. But it's mostly solo.
yeah,
Yeah, I almost, and we're all different, and I know I'm definitely different there. But I prefer to run by myself.
Yeah.
Even in races, sometimes me and Matt will run the same last man standing races, and I just can't stand to be behind somebody messing up my gait. So I have to
yeah,
kind of move and get around them so I can run. And people will be like, looking back, like, "Where's he going?" He's like, "I don't want to run with him."
Yeah, like we did
yeah.
LC at the beginning of the year, and David, he was coming off rhabdo, and
Oh
well, he
yeah,
took off. He took off for the first what, I don't know, hour, 2 hours,
Yeah.
and the people that were running, like, why is he in such a hurry? I'm like, he hates being behind people. He hates it. I said, once it starts thinning out, he'll drop back and fit in. I said, but he hates all these people, because once you get in certain sections, you're bundled up,
yeah,
and you're climbing or whatever, and you're just stuck. So,
Well,
yeah,
and that's where, like what you're talking about, like some runners need somebody and
mhm,
some prefer to be by themselves. And I mean, if I run with somebody, unless it's someone like Matt or Mike or someone that's, used to running longer distance at that pace,
yeah,
I would just prefer to kind of be by myself because it's kind of like my mindfulness. That's my release to get away from everything. Without running, I would probably go crazy.
oh, I definitely would.
So and I don't know how that is for you if you prefer to run with people or without, but it's kind of interesting to see because just like you said, some people have to have that group to push them.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, the accountability is huge, for one. Like, so when it's you're in that period of training program where it's just hard to get out for a run, it's always easier when you know someone's standing at the trailhead waiting on you, right? So I'll
Yeah,
say that, but I'm with you, David. Like running by myself, I'm totally okay with it. At last, no, at Kentucky Last Soul, we had that big grassy opening field. I was always out in front there because it's the same thing. Like I was walking the ups and walking some of the downs and would get past, but then I was able to run a little bit faster on the flats. And it just bugged me to say on your left or come behind you because we were always leapfrogging each other. So I just made the decision just to go out early and get ahead of a bunch of people, and I wouldn't see many people until maybe the last mile. So I get it. I'm the same way.
I think me and you are very similar because I think there was like maybe 5 people left in that race. That's when I finally met you.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
never
yeah,
the whole time, like we were
yeah.
both just trying to keep our distance from everybody. So like when there was like 4 or 5 people around, we're kind of looking at each other then like, who's this guy?
yep.
I seen him.
Start eyeballing people.
That's right. That was fun though. But okay, so you got your cross country runners, you got your endurance runners. Do you coach a lot of marathon runners too?
No, I mean, I coach a lot of ultra runners. Like I'm coaching a person for the rock and roll Houston Marathon currently. So I do coach marathon runners, but mostly ultra runners.
Do you work with them on their nutrition too?
I do absolutely. The sports nutrition comes along with it. Like you have to, especially with ultra running, you have to train the gut. You have to figure out what's going to work for you during training, so it doesn't bite you in the butt during the ultras, right? It's an
Yep.
eating competition with a little bit of running, right? We've all heard that, and it's true. You need to eat when you're running an ultra marathon, and you need to figure out what's going to work for you, how many calories you can take in, how much sodium you need, all of those things during training.
I hope you
And
guys are listening. He's giving you free advice right now.
and
Yeah,
then
that
and on top of that,
the sodium thing, it took me a while to figure out
yeah,
that I was always below on the sodium, and I would cramp up and just bonk a lot until I finally figured that out. During training and racing enough, I figured out I gotta have sodium. But
yeah, on top of the race nutrition though, that's if we're running, even if we're running 7 days a week, our sports nutrition accounts for 10% of our diet, over the
yeah,
whole week. So what we're eating 90% of the time is our daily nutrition. And to me, that's way more important. That has a way bigger effect on how we perform day in and day out. So I also help my athletes with their daily nutrition as well.
That's
that's
a
good.
lot of work.
That is a lot of work.
It is, but I enjoy it. And it's really super simple once you break it down. It's not about counting macros. It's not about counting calories, unless you're super low or super high. Then we have some problems. But um, most people are super low when we're talking about ultra runners. You're always trying to get more people to eat more food. But then it's just about eating real food. You can enjoy the pizza and the beer and all the other things sometimes, but majority of times, just eat real food.
So is the coaching, is that your like main thing that you do, or do you get like another job or whatever?
Yeah, so I'm still active duty in the military.
Okay.
I've been in 22 years. I started the
Yep.
coaching business in 2016 as a
Yeah.
kind of to make a bridge, right? So when I do retire from the Coast Guard, the boat's closer to the dock. I don't have to make as
Yep.
big of a leap, and
Yep.
I can make that transition a little bit easier.
Gotcha.
Well, you've definitely, the good thing is you've definitely built a resume to show
Yeah.
what your training can do. And I mean, you've obviously have some successful athletes as long as you've been coaching, and coaching 90 children has to, test your
Yeah,
patience. So, I mean,
yeah.
obviously you're a pretty successful coach. So, if people wanted to reach out to you about coaching advice, or even looking for a personal trainer slash coach, uh, or nutrition,
Mhm.
how would they get a hold of you? Like, what would be the best way to contact you?
Yeah, I'm Four Cycle Runner is my coaching business. It's the number four cycle runner. And so Instagram, my Facebook page, or fourcyclerunner.com is my website. But honestly, though, you talked about, you know, giving free advice. That's what it's about. It's about being able to share advice to those people that don't want to reach out for a coach,
Yeah.
or have questions. It's about sharing all that advice. So yeah, Instagram is where I post most of my things, anyways.
Well, and the good thing about like ultra running is the community. Just like you, like if someone reached out to you for advice, you're probably going to give them advice, and that little bit
Mhm.
of advice they're never going to forget.
Oh yeah.
6 months later, they're going to be like, "Oh, that guy gave me this," and it eventually leads to a relationship that you're never probably going to forget, and may even lead to you coaching them. And that's what I love about ultra running is it's such a tight knit family. I mean, because there truly aren't a whole lot of ultra runners if you think about it. Most of us know other ultra runners in other states, and that's usually who are our friends on Facebook. So
Yeah.
for the newer people getting into running, like being able to get that advice. I mean, I have one gentleman who's running no business. I'll be talking to him later this week, just to give him drop bag advice. Like
Yeah.
that's that stuff I can do, but like for coaching, I'm not going to step into that realm.
Yeah.
I'll leave that to you and Mary and the experts. But that's what I love is like I have never reached out to an ultra runner and been told, "Oh no, I ain't got time for you."
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I love. Like, I mean, I've seen that from you at races where you're trying to help other runners. I've seen you talking to other runners. Even like lapping runners, you're still talking to them and you're forming a relationship, and people don't forget that. And that is the thing that I love the most about ultra running. And you're building a large family just with your athletes and your coaching. And I can tell from your personality, your athletes probably follow you to a T, as far as what you're asking them to do, because I mean, your resume speaks volumes as to what your training does. So I would love to, as we progress, if I see, people that need coaching or anything, I'll reach out to you and pass them along to you or Mary, because I think having good coaches that you can pass people along to, it speaks volumes to this sport, because we need coaches that aren't just worried about winning. Like it's like you said, you want people to be healthy and sustain being able to stay in that, in this.
Longevity.
Yeah.
So
talking about
being a community. This last weekend I was in Colorado Springs, Colorado, at the first ever ultra running coaches conference. It was put on by USCA, and USCA is a certification body that I have my ultra running coaching certification through. And it was, I don't know, there's probably 50 of us there, all ultra running coaches, some PTs that are coaches, some that are part of our coaching group, some that coach are like myself, they just coach on their own. And I mean, talk about feeling like you're at home. I mean, everyone like-minded, trying to do it the right way and stay educated about coaching and the methodologies and some of the fallacies about what we hear in running and some of the new science behind it. So it was super neat being there.
So that was all for coaches?
Yep, all for coaches.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So did you know a lot of the coaches there?
You know of people like CTS is a big conglomerate of coaches. So like Jason Coop was there and a bunch of his CTS coaches. Uphill Runners, which is another group of coaches, were there, and some other names that I was aware of. Relentless Forward Commotion, she was there. She's big in the strength portion of running, and she also coaches runners as well. So.
See, that's pretty awesome. I mean, even the coaching or the coaches, it's just that community.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that drew me. I went to my first trail race and got kind of hooked. But then when I've done my first ultra, I was like, oh, I love this. It's just so laid back. Like people were finishing a race and opening a beer, and I was like,
people actually talk to you.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing.
When I first started running, back running before I started running with these guys, East Coast Adventures, I would go to some of the road races, and they would just stare at you.
Yeah.
And like, well, you don't fit in with us. Who are you? And you do your race, and you get done, and they're like, "Yep, don't know who you are, going." And then you start running like trail races and ultra races, and they're like, "Hey, great job, blah blah blah." You get done, and they're talking to you. This your first one? How you doing? You like it? And it was completely different vibe from the road to the trail.
Yeah.
But now I think the races that we put on, I think a lot of it has crossed. So you got a lot of the road runners coming over to trail. So now it's like a mixture, which is really cool to see that they're actually trying something different.
Yep.
So, Josh, we've got some questions from listeners. As long as Matt doesn't lose the list,
right here on my Instagram,
we'll have more
awkward
on this podcast.
Well, I think we've actually got some of them already answered. Like, what was your training plan? You've already covered that. Did you have any lows? We've already covered that. Here's one that I don't think we have. What was the highlight of the race, of the dirt circuit?
So it highlighted twice for two different reasons. Right after it was the same situation, the same scenario, but that little girl that was standing in the front of the starting line
Yep.
right before she's part of a relay team. She was trying to talk to her mom about saying they couldn't hear each other. She said something about who's number two, who's the second relay, and the mom's like, "Are you asking me? Am I the second relay?" And she's like, "No, who's it is? Who's it gonna be?" And the mom's like, "Oh, I'll just find out. I have time." And she's like, "No, you don't. Like, I'm gonna run this really fast. You better find that out quickly." It was the best way to start a race. And then again at the end of the race, when the photos were released, who was the photographer?
Nick Morgan.
Nick. Yeah, he took some amazing photos, but that he took a photo of that girl standing there, right? She's waist high of everyone else around her, but that like tells the story of trail and ultra running right there. Not that we have kids doing ultra events, but we can have kids standing at the start line of an ultra event like that, and it just amazes me that it's acceptable. It's totally fine. Everyone was on. It was just so cool to see, and the picture is amazing.
Yes, I saw where you had shared that,
Yeah,
and you made a statement about it was awesome and stuff. That it was. She looked excited the whole time. All those little kids
yeah.
did. I mean, they were fast too.
Yeah, there was one kid that ran that loop in 23 minutes.
Oof,
And
I
fast.
think
yeah, so that was the 12-hour relay. That was the Romas, I think.
maybe I don't know.
Dirty
But
Bird, but
they had some.
they weren't ready for him when he come back.
Some of those little kids. I think one of them said. I think they were just running by themselves. I don't think they were on a. Some of them weren't even on a relay team, and they ran a lot of miles.
They did.
Like I think the mom did the 12-hour, or I think they all did the 12-hour, and they were talking excited, like, how many miles you do? How many miles you do?
Yeah,
And that's cool to see that, the little kids are looking forward, how many miles did I get? It excites them instead of just like, oh, mom's making me run again. And while we're out here,
yeah,
they were excited about it. And that was really cool.
yeah.
And
I
we,
uh, I I shared a half a lap with a kid named Boone. His dad was trying to get in, I think 53 miles or something. I came up behind him, and he was running with his dad. And I said to his dad, I said, "You must be having a great time." And he said, "Best day of my life," which was amazing response. But then his son left him and was running with me
I remember
from the backside of the course all the way up to the finish, and we chatted the whole way. And he was telling me how many laps he's done, and I asked him if he runs cross country, and he said no, but I'm gonna start next year, which is awesome. And so that moment was cool too, sharing that mile and a half with Boone from on one random lap. He just happened to be out there with his dad.
I remember
That's
his
awesome.
his dad came in and he goes, he left me and went ran with him. It was pretty funny when he came in. I was filling up his
I mean,
bottle.
who doesn't want to run with Prefontaine?
Oh,
Yeah.
geez.
So
Now I
the
gotta
last
keep the mustache.
I know, right? I
the
like it.
last question is with the big events that you do and the time you're out there and all the training, how do you balance between family,
Yeah,
running,
huge.
and work?
Yeah, I mean that's a huge question. Well, and that's one of the biggest things that I like to sell as a coach is that you can balance uh, active duty Coast Guard member, right? I have a coaching job. I volunteer with cross country. We're opening up a CrossFit gym. We have 4 boys doing 4 different sports, right? We have all of these things, uh, but you still can find time to train for an ultra. It doesn't have to take over your life, right? Your fitness can fit into your life. It doesn't have to take over your life. So that's my soapbox spiel about that. But how do I do it? And it's Jess. It's my wife. She, it's a communication between her and I. She has her goals with CrossFit and starting her business there, and we just manage it. Sometimes it's waking up early and getting a run in. Sometimes it's not getting a run in, even though it's on the calendar on the schedule. And I'm okay with that because my training doesn't take my life over. We make it fit into our life.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I like that.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you've said that a time or two before. It looks like you're pretty passionate about that.
100%. Anyone can run and train for a marathon or an ultra marathon. No matter how busy you are, it's possible.
Well, and I mean, that's very true. You fitness needs to fit into your life. It doesn't need to take it over, because some people can make it unhealthy.
Oh yeah.
100%.
So I think that's great advice, and I think that's a great answer. I couldn't have said it any better myself, and it sounds like you've said it a few times. So
Yeah.
Well, Josh, we don't really have anything else for
Nope,
you. That
was
pretty
all the
much
questions.
covers all of our questions. But do you have anything you want to ask us?
Oh, well, I don't know about a question,
Or is there anything that we need to do better at Dirt Circuit next year?
No.
We realized
one thing. The porta potties, yeah, the porta johns could be a little bit closer. No, I mean, I don't have any questions. Thanks for doing what you guys do. Right, it takes a ton to bring all that gear out to remote locations and set it up and be able to do it in a way that felt seamless for me
Yep.
as a runner. So thanks for what you guys do, bringing having the venue to set up moments like I had with Boone, right? To see the photographer taking a shot of that girl at the start line. Thanks for setting all that up.
Well, I got to say, Nick is just absolutely amazing.
He is.
We're blessed in this region with some really talented photographers. With you got Nick, Misty, Ashley. I mean, there's several that are really good, and we're just lucky that they work our races and they have fun there. So
I think out of all my photos, Nick has got at least the top 10 of my favorite pictures that is posted everywhere. Nick does a great job, and he actually cares.
Yeah.
He cares, and he's not out there just to do it. He actually cares, and he's a runner himself, so he knows the angles and all that stuff.
yeah,
He had an Ironman. Didn't he have an Ironman or something the next day? What you all say?
No, he was taking pictures for the Ironman.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense.
That's
Every
why
time I passed him,
middle of the night, because he had to be at Ironman at like 5 or 6 in the morning.
Okay, yeah. Dang.
So Nick is very talented.
Yeah.
So he's a very he's very
good problem to have.
Yeah,
Yep.
he's requested a lot by some of the local races, so he's constantly traveling around. But yeah, we're blessed, and thank you so much. I mean, we both just appreciate you coming out here, and that's why I was trying to get you to come out to Dirt Circuit to begin with, because I thought you would have fun, and also I thought you would be a really tough competitor out there. That's why I tried to get you, Casey, and a couple others, and y'all made it fun. I mean, you all had a good time, and it was fun, and I mean, you earned a belt buckle, set the course record, and we love our runners, and we love the ECA family, and I mean, anytime that you want to come run with us, you please let us know. Just reach out.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys. Well, this is Josh Laker. You can find him, like he said, on Instagram or Facebook. That is the number 4 Cycle Runner. If you need coaching advice, help, anything else, please reach out to him. He's an awesome ultra runner and a great person. And if you need crew advice, though, I'd talk to his wife.
Yeah,
100%. She's it's a package deal. She'll come in and give some advice while I'm coaching.
There you go. See? Well, guys, it's Josh Laker. Josh, take care, man. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you.